Welcome to Politics Nation. I'm Al Sharpton. Tonight's lead, Governor Romney breaks his silence on taxes. He's been under fire for months for refusing to release more than 2 years. The pressure has been building from both sides, from the press and from Harry Reid. And today, speaking to reporters in South Carolina at an impromptu news conference, he went there.
Given the challenges that America faces, 23 million people out of work, Iran about to become nuclear, 1 out of 6 Americans in poverty, the fascination with taxes I paid I find to be very small-minded compared to the broad issues that we face. But I did go back and look at my taxes, and over the past 10 years, I never paid less than 13%. I think the most recent year is 13.6 or something like that. So I've paid taxes every single year. Harry Reid's charge is totally false, but every year I've paid at least 13%. And if you add in addition the amount that goes to charity, well, the number gets well above 20%.
This is a big development, but we won't be seeing any more releases. In an interview that aired tonight on NBC's Rock Center, Ann Romney said there'll be no more tax returns.
The more we release, the more we get attacked. The more we get questioned, the more we get pushed. And so we have done what's legally required, and there's going to be no more tax releases.
And Senator Harry Reid's camp responded today telling BuzzFeed, quote, "We'll believe it when we see it." Until Mitt Romney releases his tax returns, Americans will continue to wonder what he is hiding. So how will all this play out? Joining me now is MSNBC political analyst Richard Wolff. He's the author of Revival, The Struggle for Survival Inside the Obama White House, and Rebecca Wilkins, senior counsel for Citizens for Tax Justice. Thanks to you both for being here tonight.
Thanks, Reverend.
Richard, let me start with you. What do you make of this big announcement today?
Well, he knows how to drag this out, right? He's making this so much more painful than it needs to be. If indeed he has nothing to hide and that he's been paying taxes at a respectable, albeit low rate for the last 10 years, then he should put those tax returns out there. But the cost politically to him, it is considerable. It looks like he's still hiding something. It looks like he's doing it from a position of privilege. I know something, you don't need to know it. And by the way, he's wasting his wife's political capital. She, as the candidate spouse, shouldn't be talking in this way about this kind of subject. She should be reaching out to voters that her husband cannot reach. So honestly, politically, it's a waste, and it's head-puzzlingly, scratchingly awkward and curious as to why they're doing this.
Awkward and curious, head-scratching. Do you think this was calculated or it was spontaneous because it was an impromptu press conference?
You think he's a spontaneous candidate? I don't think anything that came out of his mouth today wasn't rehearsed 5-10 times in front of his advisors. That was very careful language.
But why now? Why didn't he do this before and just shut this down?
Exactly. Why now? His big message with the whiteboard was about Medicare and about his VP pick and about these bigger issues. Why now? That could be the bumper sticker in this whole campaign.
Let me go to you, Rebecca. He says he paid at least 13% in taxes over the past 10 years. If that percentage is correct, is that fair? I mean, when you look at the fact that he's worth an estimated $250 million, if he paid 13.9% in 2010, but a worker who earns $60,000 a year pays 29.9% in taxes on average. So given the percentage he said today he did over the last 10 years, is it fair?
It's not fair, Reverend Al, and it's a perfect illustration of what's wrong with our tax system. The primary reason that Romney's paying such a low rate is that most of his income is from capital gains and dividends. And we tax income from wealth at a much lower rate than we tax income from work. If you work for a living, you're going to pay about twice as much federal income tax as somebody with the same amount of income from wealth. And it doesn't matter how much you make, whether it's $60,000 or $60 million. million, you'll pay twice as much federal income tax if your income is from work. And then you'll pay payroll taxes on top of that.
So when he says he's paid over 13%, does that mean that there could be other income that was not taxable, like these offshore allegations, or the fact that we know he did have offshore companies? I mean, what does that, could there be a way around this with various tax shelters and other things that really don't reveal totally what the income and what was taxed and what was not?
Well, there's a lot of types of income that aren't taxable that don't show up on your income tax returns. Income earned by an individual retirement account, for one. And we know from his financial disclosure forms that his IRA has at least $20 million and maybe as much as $102 million in it. And all of the earnings on that is not being taxed. I've also noted when he talks about it, he doesn't say federal income taxes. He says he paid taxes of 13%. Is he throwing in sales taxes and property taxes and all other kinds of taxes? Is he including his state income taxes? Because Massachusetts has about a 5% tax rate. So I think the language that he's using is intentionally vague. And again, I agree with Richard that we really won't know until he shows us the tax returns.
Where does this go politically, Richard? I mean, it's been back and forth, back and forth. Where does it go? Does it stop here? Does it exacerbate? What happens?
No, it does not stop here because he keeps dribbling out this information. But actually, I think the debate moves on from the specifics of his returns to his policies now. Because now we're talking about budgets. Now we're talking about his budget proposals versus Paul Ryan's budget proposals. Under both men's budget proposals, he'd be paying even less. And so the question here now comes into play of, does his personal position, his personal approach to taxes, affect his judgment about what taxes should be for the whole country? And it should be a forward-looking debate here. What is the right level? Is 13% actually too much for someone as wealthy as Mitt Romney? That's actually what he's proposing. So, honestly, that's where the debate, I think, should go and I think will go. But along the way, he's still going to face daily, weekly pressure from reporters, from everyone else. Put out your tax returns.
What do you think about Harry Reid? Is he going to get involved in this again? He's the one who had made the statement that he had someone that had been connected to Bain that said he had paid no taxes.
Harry Reid is an expert wrestler. He is not going to release the hold he has got right now. But remember that Harry Reid, you know, I said earlier that this was a respectable but low rate. That's partly because Harry Reid has set the bar so low at zero that anything above zero looks respectable. So Harry Reid in some ways has done him a favor. If he thinks he has paid some taxes that he can justify, again, put it out. But Harry Reid isn't going to give this up. He has just set the bar very, very low for Mitt Romney to clear.
Now, Rebecca, Mr. Romney said today that fascination with his taxes is small-minded. Yet 63% of people polled say he should release more returns. 36% say he should release more returns. Is it small-minded if you're dealing with tax policy and you're, in fact, stating things that would affect people's taxes in terms of the percentage, and you yourself may be paying what many would say is a low percentage?
I don't think it's small-minded at all. I mean, it does implicate what his decisions would be in terms of where our tax policy goes. But it also goes back to the bigger question that he raised at the beginning of his statement, and that is that we have all of these issues to deal with. Well, the government has to have revenues to deal with those issues. If a government can't tax effectively, it can't really do much of anything else.
Now, Richard, in this back and forth on taxes, this is more about the percentage and the rate that Americans are going to be taxed, and the rate that he and Mr. Ryan are proposing, more than dollar figures. I don't think this is about begrudging his wealth or trying to find out numbers. This is about a question of fairness.
Right. Well, I think, yes, absolutely. Fairness is a big part of this. But we're also talking about two people, Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan, who say, we are the ones who can manage a budget responsibly. We are the ones who are going to bring down the deficit and balance the budget. If you just did spending cuts, that might be true. But what they also propose is massive tax cuts across the board. if you're serious about balancing the budget, you cannot do both in any reasonable time frame. That's why it takes Paul Ryan 3 decades to balance the budget. If you or I would say, I'm serious about balancing a budget, it's just going to take me 30 years to do it, everyone would laugh. And so that's the question here. If you think that tax cuts are the most important thing,
right,
even tax cuts for people like Mitt Romney, how can you go out and sell yourself as being fiscally responsible, someone who cares passionately about getting the budget together? It's a very hard thing to put together.
Richard Wolff and Rebecca Wilkins, thank you both for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Ahead, the other big news out of Mr. Romney's press conference today. Him trying to explain his Medicare plan with a marker and a whiteboard. Well, I'm breaking out my own board tonight with Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Plus, Paul Ryan may be the darling of the right wing, but he's certainly not helping with the female vote. All that, plus the wide world of sports, I'll introduce you to catfish noodling and one of his biggest fans. You're watching Politics Nation on MSNBC.